Welcome to Soccer Talk, a podcast about soccer mostly in Iowa, presented by Kick It Forward. Kick It Forward is a positive disruptor to the Iowa soccer community.
Thanks to our sponsors, Scott Insurance Services and Michael Keener, Attorney at Law. You need legal help, you need insurance help, those are the two to contact.
That's right. Welcome to the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. Welcome once again to Soccer Talk. I'm Ben Brackett here with my good pal, co-host. What else are you? Former teammate. You got anything else, Blake? What are we?
Compatriots.
Being awkward.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome back. We are on track right now. We're going to be sending this out 1 week from our previous podcast. So we're making some headway.
Yeah, we got them all lined up, kind of getting back in the groove a little bit now after Labor Day. I heard
back to business.
Yeah, the Tuesday after Labor Day is the most, there's the day that there's the most phone calls because everybody's back getting ready for the fall.
I will go ahead and agree with that. At least at work it was busy, not in a good way. There's nothing good happening, but it was busy.
Good. Yeah, so who did we talk to?
So this is kind of a fun one for us. All you soccer files out there that are from the Des Moines area, I'm sure know all about the Modersohn family. If you follow the Menace, Seth Modersohn, but his younger brother Mark may technically be the more accomplished Modersohn.
Oh, I would say he is arguably one of the most decorated or the most decorated boys/men's soccer player to come out of the state. So
I don't think that that's inaccurate at all. And Seth it'll pain him to admit that, but we'll be talking to him at some point as well. But in the meantime, Mark was quite the stud back in the day.
He was. I remember when. So kind of full disclosure, Seth, the older of the two, was our coach for a few years over at Iowa United, and he would bring his buddies and whatnot to train. And I remember to the day still, I think Seth owes me $100, which I'll probably bring up to him. That nobody could chip his brother, and we were playing out there in Albert, and I absolutely chipped him.
Have you ever chipped anyone?
Mark Modersohn.
Is that the only person?
Yeah. And we didn't even talk about it in our interview here.
Oh, man, you totally. Well, no, it's best that you didn't give him an opportunity to rebut.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, it was a good chat, and he's got some good stories, and I think it'll be interesting for our listeners as he lives down in Dallas, so the youth soccer landscape is
larger.
Yeah, I would say, I don't want to say legitimate, but it's the real deal down there.
Yeah.
And we'd get into talking a little about the differences down there than in Iowa.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a fun little chat. Hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, here we go.
Perfect. All right. Mark Modersohn, welcome to the podcast today. How are you?
Hey. Doing well. How are you guys?
We're great.
Good.
Fall has begun here in Des Moines.
Oh,
We've got.
Can't say the same down here.
No, it's rainy.
103 degrees last weekend. So.
Well, it was actually pretty warm here just the other day. So it just was one of those where it swung like 30 degrees overnight, and you're like, ugh. So everybody's digging out their sweatshirts and stuff, and training is canceled because of the rain and all sorts of fun stuff. That's not happening down south, is it?
It's not that bad. I got like a team update that practice might be canceled today, though, because it's likelihood of rain. So I got the update, but we'll be prepared for anything.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
my son will still get a session in, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, while he's at training, you can catch up on the podcast. I assume you haven't listened to it just based on our interaction so far.
I actually listened to part of one yesterday after we were going to get on the call. So I listened to Zlaska for a minute. I don't know, it just popped up on my phone. So Big Z.
That's awesome. Yeah, so your first question then.
Yeah, I do. I have not been on a podcast before.
Oh, he's done well. He listened to the first 5 minutes and he's set. He's set.
Yeah, no worries.
Awesome. Well, so we're kind of doing this Iowa Soccer Legend series, and as we were going through it, we started digging deep into the archives of former Iowa players, and you came up. Obviously, you got a bit of a storied history, and we could kind of rattle off stuff about you. We'll probably do that in the intro. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your soccer story and growing up in Des Moines, and kind of how it all started for you.
Yeah. So, obviously you guys know my brother. So having a big brother that's 3 years older that plays soccer sometimes has its benefits and not so, I guess, good benefits sometimes when you're a little bro. But, just seeing, I guess at that time, pro coaches and soccer clubs was just really developing. Like Iowa United really wasn't really a soccer club. It was soccer.
So was this late 70s?
Yeah, true. I was born in 79. Tim Howard and I are one day apart.
Oh, hilarious.
But, and on the same team. But we, so just growing up, I just remember my mom and Carl Voss and some other people, Ramona Barber, that were just building Aliber. There was just some grass patch down there, and there was no goalposts, no goals.
We actually just heard from Carl Voss recently about a project. Yeah, he referenced what you just said that he was a part of the original Iowa United and helped build the fields, and it sounds like he's all about it. He's a city councilman now.
Oh, he is? Okay, cool. Yeah, no, he's always going to do something, always involved in the community there. But, yeah, so my mom was my first coach for the Kicks, I think. That was our team name. But just kind of and the Strikers, too. But, yeah, that was the old Soccer West days. So going up to, I guess, King Perkins when I grew up pretty much on 41st Place down by Drake, where both my parents went to Drake. And then my brother ended up there. But we just started practicing there. My mom really never played soccer. She was just super competitive, loved sports, wanted us to be active, and eventually got into goal. Just my mom said that she would prefer for us not to play the same position. There's enough competitiveness in the house, but she didn't want us to be on the same position for whatever reason, for comparisons or whatever. So being the younger brother, I think he just threw me in goal and started pounding shots on me at a young age. So.
That's funny because Ben and myself are the older brothers, and we've got younger brothers that play, and I did the same thing to my brother. I threw him in goal, and
yeah. Man.
I tried. Park wasn't having it.
He wasn't having that? No?
No.
No. Yeah. And so obviously I played soccer, and I started playing around with some different teams and clubs, and you'd play up. And that was till I was about 13, 14 was when I think Matt Kennedy moved into Des Moines to kind of take over and help. And that was kind of a funky deal. It's one day my mom's like, hey, some guy's getting ready to come live with us for a couple of days. He's coming down from Minneapolis area. You know him? And I was like, how do I know him? And he's like, well, you were at a soccer tournament in Kansas City, or soccer actually at camp. I went down to a 4-day overnight or something like that, and Kennedy was my coach there. And so I had a chance to train with him for 3 or 4 days when I was 12 years old, and on my first overnight camps, And then the next thing I know, he shows up in this hatchback Scirocco with a Doberman pinscher, and he comes rolling up to the house, and
he was such a badass, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, the radio was cranked up, and he was just flying. Probably, who knows how fast he was going? I was always scared to get in his car, but he probably made it. He'd always be like, "New time, new record time, Minneapolis to Des Moines, 2 hours." Whatever it is, right? He always had something in his mind, but those couple of days turned into many months, right? So he was kind of part of the family. He's that kind of interesting dynamic. He was like my brother that was older, but also my kind of father figure, but also a coach. And then he kind of really got me on the path of where I'd want to go with soccer. And I was always on the state team and all that kind of stuff in Iowa for soccer, but I would always go to regionals or ODP at the time. And, I'd always want to be competitive and want to make the pool teams, want to make the Midwest team, want to go to nationals, the national pool tryouts and all that kind of stuff. And then I just never got there. Maybe I was just too short at the time or whatever. But as you guys know, growing up in Iowa, you didn't have the political push behind you sometimes when you're going down to those types of events that a lot of other teams do or other states do. They just have the connections. They're going to have 3 or 4 players on every 24-person pool. It's just part of the deal. And so when I got to be like 15, 16, he moved me up to the under 18 team, I guess when I was 14. And so I got a chance to play with my brother, and we won state and got to go to regionals. And that was my first test of like Chris Klein and the Indiana guys and the SLU guys that ended up like going to the Final Four. Obviously they're in World Cups, Olympics, but I was 14 years old playing in regionals against those guys. And
how bad did you guys get beat?
Oh man, I think that my brother actually probably knows that. I was like, I don't know, I think I got scored on like 6 times or something.
In every game?
Came out on a 1-on-1, and it was just brutal. And I think that was like one of those moments that you're just like, man, I'm outmatched. But yeah, that was cool though. It was just like the whole experience of doing that. And Kennedy was down at Aliber. I think he had a tent down there because like we had like this mismatched team. I know it's kind of funny, right? But
it doesn't surprise me. I think we've heard
a tent down at a soccer field.
I think we've heard a version of this at some point.
No, somebody said they couldn't make practice. They're working, and we gotta work. We gotta make some money to support the family or whatever, and to contribute. And so Kenny's like, forget that, man. Then I'll be there 24 hours a day, so you can't make an excuse. You can be down at the fields. And so I just remember going down there, and he was down, and that was just like his dedication to the team. And you guys know all about his, like, he'll be the first guy to take his shirt off his back and give it to you if you ever ask for it without ever asking for anything back. But yeah, then that kind of got, obviously Matt had a vested interest in my development, and just waking up before high school, he'd be honking the car out my driveway at 5:15, 5:30 in the morning. Nobody in high school really loves that, right?
And if you were Ben's neighbor, he would definitely not like you because he sleeps in a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been happy.
Yeah. So then we would do training in the morning, go down to Seven Flags. I don't know if Seven Flags is still in the morning or not, but we would go out.
Not really.
Or I guess it's on the border. It was.
Yeah, it's in Clive. Good enough.
Yeah, Clive. Yeah, so we went to Seven Flags every morning, and then he'd drop me off at high school. Then he'd pick me up, and we'd go down to Aliber. So it was like a full day. But those years were like really where I went from like just probably a really like a good player to starting to be on the national pools and the region pools and stuff like that before I went to college. And I was going to go to Wisconsin was my original selection, right? I went through the recruiting process, and it was like Omaha or Creighton was like my school growing up. It was an hour and a half away or 2 hours. That was like my dream school, because they were right there. They were local, and they always were in a top 10 program. But they had John Epperson was a junior, and Tom Zavishlan was a freshman. And so why would I go there and sit behind some people potentially? And obviously there's not a lot there. And so I went up to Wisconsin, and Jim Launder was the coach, who was a Midwest region coach, and Ian Barker, who ended up, I think, running Minnesota's youth soccer. And then
still around. He's like the regional director.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, Kansas. He lives in Kansas City, I think. He's like the NCAA regional director.
Yeah, now it's called USC, the United Soccer Coaches.
Okay, all right.
A little rebrand.
The game for a while.
Yeah. Well, sounds like you're getting back into it with the kids. So.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Now I'm definitely all the way back in. But
Mark, we'll interrupt you. Give us your Jim Launder. What do you think of that guy? We had him on our C license up in Wisconsin.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So that was.
And Blake and I took it together.
That was 12 years ago.
It was at least 10.
Oh man, awesome. No, he was. I think he was like a goalkeeper coach too.
Yep.
So he was. So when I went up there, it was the year after they won the national championship on State Street. So my.
Not a bad place.
I went twice. I went on 2 recruiting trips.
Well played. Sorry, I got to go back and check that out one more time.
It was like, I definitely had to go. But Launder was, he was a good guy, good coach. I guess like what happened like 3 weeks before signing day, Ian Barker called me and was like, "Hey, Jim, they got let go, because I guess it was the year after the national championship, and one of the compliance people there, I believe, said he was, too rough on the players, or something happened. Like, I don't know all the details. It wasn't like the days of social media and internet where you could just search up whatever happened, right? This is just getting on the landline and talking over and saying, "Hey, you can still come here." But I said, "Hey, Ian, are you going to be the coach?" And he was like, "Nah." He's like, I'm not going to take over after him." And so we lost the whole recruiting class just broke up like 3 weeks before.
So were you committed verbally?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was committed for probably since like November, December. So right after the fall season, I went up there during the fall, and we all committed. There's probably like 7 or 8 of us in that recruiting class. Really good class coming in, because he was really involved in the '79 ODP. So we had like a bunch of players coming in to kind of take over for like Les Hart, and Todd Wilson was going to be a senior my freshman year. And then it was kind of like that was the plan, was I'd come in, learn from Todd for a year, and then take over.
Instead, you got thrown right into the fire.
Yeah. Then it got changed up. So then I went down to Missouri State. And
had you already been on a visit there, or how did that come about?
Yeah, like right when I kind of like freed up, I called like Brett Simon, I think, at Creighton, and Schmaltz.
Oh, you're dating yourself. You're saying Brett Simon at Creighton. That's hilarious.
No, that was it though. But that was at the pinnacle of Creighton. They've been downhill ever since. Just kidding.
No Bob Wood conversations?
I did, so my Bob Wood story, it's on one hand it's good and sad on the other, right? Is like I think I'd always go and train, right? Seth was there, and I'd go, it's like 5 blocks from where I grew up. So, you go down to the school, and it's good to get train with the college guys like Wilson and Eric and Kirk, and all those guys are awesome. I mean, super cool people. But I went there on a it wasn't really a recruiting trip, right? Bob was like, "Hey, you want to come meet me in the office?" And so I met him, and he's like, "Hey, there's not much I'm going to tell you that you don't know. Both your parents went to Drake, your brother goes to Drake. We'd love to have you. Here's what our offer would be." Like it was like day one. Here's the money. Here's this.
Credit to him for cutting through all this. The BS.
But you're like 5 blocks away. Yeah. And so I was just like, I don't know. I think for me, I just thought it was in my best interest to go to Wisconsin at the time. And then Missouri State was, John Leamy was involved in the ODP program as well. And he had always recruited, as well as Bradley at the time, with DeRose was the coach at the time. But he
still is.
He is?
Man, there's some old time Valley coaches that are still around.
Holy crap. I know he was the AD for a while, then he may have got back, or maybe he's been both positions. But so then I went down there, and he said, "Hey, we just lost our senior goalkeeper. We're going to have a 5th-year senior come in. We're going to have about 3 or 4 guys, but we're building a program right on the cusp, we believe." And so I had a good time down there, and it was 5.5 hours, 5 hours, 15 minutes. I wanted to kind of stay in the Midwest so I could see my family. Obviously, my mom was sick, so I wanted to not venture too far away, be within driving distance if needed, let her come see games. And then I ended up going there, and I didn't start one game, right? The first game of my freshman year was, I think we were playing Memphis, and at halftime we were down 1-0, and coach was like, "Go warm up." And I was like, "You do that? You play halves?" I didn't want to say that, but as a goalkeeper, you're like, "Why? What are we doing here?" You're playing.
Well, and as a freshman, sometimes a freshman, they're just like, "Well, you should go warm up. Just be ready."
Then he was just like, "No, get in there." I was like, "All right." And so that was it. That was the start of my college playing days. And so
you started every game except for one, and that was your first game.
Yeah.
You basically just missed out on a half.
That was it.
The poor guy in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
It's a short season.
Yeah, I know. Freeman. we see him, and he's I think he coaches in college right now. I don't know where, but he's just like super supportive after that. I don't know behind the scenes how it was, but
So were you a bit of a party guy?
where?
Just like, I mean, well, you say Wisconsin's a good time. Missouri State or Southwest Missouri State
and he didn't want to go to Drake, so
yeah. I'm reading between the lines here because Missouri State, we were down there for like a Halloween weekend one time, and that's a big school.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's like, I don't know, there's like 20,000 undergrad there. But it was, I don't know. I mean, I love to have fun, play hard, right? And
nothing wrong with that.
And so it was definitely a good time. It's like the mixture of like 90% of the team was St. Louis and Kansas City kids, and then there was about 10% that was kind of like that mix of wherever coach could pull from nationally or whatever, right? I think it's changed a lot now where it's got a more international flavor at
sure.
State, but
it's everywhere. It's it's due to the way that MLS exists and takes all our top talent, and then so then where do we go get those players at? Well, there's a lot of players overseas that would love to come get a U.S. education.
That's right, for sure.
So talk a little about the success you had there.
Okay.
Mainly, I don't know how your first couple years were. Obviously, your last year. Go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna say, like, I know you guys went undefeated. I know you did some damage in the tournament. I know you guys won the MVC. I know you were like an All-American, I think. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Multiple times? Multiple times?
Like second team All-American was the highest, right? Then I was like the Midwest All-Americans and all that stuff, whatever it was at the time. But yeah, like my freshman year, we did well. We had some good guys like Caution, who ended up played pro for a while afterwards. He was a senior my freshman year. Just a lot of really good, solid players. But my freshman year, we ended up we ended up making the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history, top 10. Lost to SLU, which ended up making to the Final Four. But yeah, that was a good year. I went in, I was 18, like you guys freshman year, right? And you're all of a sudden thrown into preseason and running around, ran around the track. We did like 3 mile time runs, and I was a goalie, and I was like, when am I ever going to do this?
Yeah, he's been known to have like some crazy fitness tests down there.
I think he's gotten easier.
Back in the day, is it the same coach?
He is, yeah,
okay.
Definitely. So he's definitely still there, and he's a good guy. Like I needed that discipline. I love I like to hang out, have fun too, but I needed that coach. It's like a Kennedy or a Leamy or.
That's how my coach was in college. He was crazy, but in a good way.
Yeah, so I played my brother in college.
How many times?
Once. He was a senior my freshman year. So
how's that?
It was interesting. We won 4-1.
Shut him out?
He's got to get that in there, doesn't he?
Did you shut him out, though, is the question.
Always.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And then they came out with us that night, which they all had fun.
I think we went to that game.
2 days later, it's like you aren't supposed to hang out or do anything 48 hours before the game, but it was like Halloween weekend. And we won, set up we had to play Creighton on that Sunday to see who was going to win conference. And we ended up beating them. That was when Torres was there, Mulrooney. I mean, the names go on for all the guys that either played in the national team or in the MLS or wherever.
Wagon Pure.
Because those are like the guys, like you probably played against guys that you're like, oh my gosh, like when you're 15, 16, we're looking up to them, and then you're thrown in as a freshman playing. I mean, he scored on me, but I was like, you're kind of like, oh man, then you beat them, and you're like, we go to the conference tournament, which was at Evansville that year, and Drake made it, and so we were at and stuff like that. And my brother, it was like one of the cooler college experiences that I've had. It was freshman year, my brother's a senior. We go down and they're doing the awards banquets, and all of a sudden, they go through honorable mentions, third team, second team, and they're going through first team all conference, and they get towards the end, and I'm like, I didn't get anything, and then you don't hear your brother or whatever either, and then they're like, well, for the first time in conference history, we have two brothers on first team all conference together. you know, and so they mentioned Seth, and they mentioned myself, and I was the newcomer of the year. And, you know, I just remember like going home and we called, you know, my mom and dad and left a message. And then, you know, 6 months later, we go over to my parents' house and like they still have the recording on their phone. And it was like one of those moments that you're like, man, that was pretty special, you know, that both of us got that year. But yeah.
That's super cool.
Did you guys play Drake on the old practice field next to the tennis center your freshman year?
We played at home.
You did? Okay.
Sophomore year, we did. My sophomore year, we came down. We played on the right next door to the
tennis center.
Yeah, right there, man. A million times. Practice out there a million times. That was the first.
I love that place.
I bet we were one of those games.
Oh, for sure, too. For sure.
Yeah. And then we went to my junior year. Like my sophomore year was pretty good. It's probably my best overall season was my sophomore season. But my junior year was when we went undefeated in the regular season. We ended up 4th in the country. We were 17-1-3. We just had like an awesome like group of guys. You know, it was just like one of those where everything kind of comes together. We had a lot of close games, a lot of overtime games. But you know, end up losing the UAB down there in Birmingham in a very close game to knock us out. But that was cool. And then I mean, we were ranked all 4 years and just kind of kept it going.
So what happened senior year after you get done? This was what year was that?
2000.
Okay, so there was like MLS Combine and whatnot. Did you get any invites there? Or?
Yeah, so like it was interesting. It was like my mom passed away in '99, and hold on. Yeah, so my mom passed away in '99, and so we, you know, one thing that I always like committed to her was to finish school, you know, and so right after going into my senior year, that was the decision. Like I went to summer school after my junior year, so I was like coming back on the weekends to play like in the PBL and stuff like that. You know, like I wasn't even there during the week. I would just like go do summer school down at Missouri State, come back, kind of like traveling to try to get prepared for my senior year. And then after that, we, you know, we did well. Whatever I was in whatever awards, you know, that you get. And then it was the Wizards was really the talk, and I think it was Bob Gansler at the time, and Miola was the goalie, and he just signed like through 2004 or something like that. So it was like 2000. There was 10 or 12 MLS teams, and so that was going to be the decision, right? Was to go into play for the Wizards and get up to Kansas City, and then kind of there was like this little issue that was like I was like I'm going to stay through school, you know, and so it was like February I don't know if the draft is still in the spring, but I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was like right in the heart of trying to get your education.
Yeah, preseason starts.
Yeah, it's preseason. So they're like, come on up. You got.
I had a couple teammates that happened to, and that got drafted, and they're like, "Well, I'll be there in June," and they were like,
"Yeah,
that's
exactly the same thing." So it's like Gansler said, "Come on up. We have Miola," and I was like, you know, there's 20 goalies, I think. I was like, you look at the old rosters, and it was like out of 24 players, there's 2 goalies, right? And so it's like, so I said, hey, I'll come up. And same thing you just said, Ben. I was like, I'll come up after we graduate in May. And he was like, well, then that just shows that you're not committed to being a pro, right? That you're not willing to just drop everything and come up. And it was kind of like one of those moments that I was like, if they really wanted to make it happen, they would make it happen type deal. But it was also an opportunity like where that was the first couple months I hadn't played soccer in a long time, you know, like daily, right? I'd still train and work out, but I was like in school and I was like, man, this is not that hard, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was like,
yeah.
You know, I had like a 3.8 or a 3.9 my last semester. It was like the best grades. And I was like, gosh.
Because you're not a full-time soccer player.
Yeah. So I just got into that, you know, and I just said maybe it's not for me. Is the life of going that route, and salaries at that time. Like right now, it'd be a different story. And I tell them,
you'd have making like literally $12,000.
yeah, that was like what they offer you. It's like, hey, that was my freshman year. I went down to Chula Vista in 97, 98. It was January 98, right? So it was like that. It was the Olympics. I went to Chula Vista, and it was Nick Raimondo, Tim Howard, myself, and then a fourth goalie from
those guys have made a career out of that. What happened to you, Mark?
I know. So that's what I'm getting at right now. Like, is that
but how long did it take him? How long did it take him? I mean, Raimondo didn't become big until he was in his 30s, and Timmy was late 20s.
Yeah, it was like we're sitting in the room, and the Project 40 started, right? I don't know if that's around.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like the Adidas reps come in and they say, hey, you leave now, you can sign. And so obviously Tim
so messed up.
was gone, right? Tim was like, I'm with the Metro Stars or whatever. He was awesome though. I mean, I admit, like training with him, you're like, man, he's just on another level, like athletically. Like from all the technique side was a struggle, I think, at first for him, just like the basic, not the basics, right? But like just he would do the unbelievable, but then you'd go, whoa, what happened there?
Well, his instincts are really good, right? Like you think about that Belgium game, and like the saves he's making are just all reaction saves. They're not like
his shot blocking is like amazing. And he to the corner every shot he can stop. And then Raimondo is like athletic, like just anything within a couple feet of his body is just like his quickness is just like you just don't see that like normally. You just train with him, you're like that's just like on a different. You just you watch an NBA player, you watch somebody like the way they move is just different than that dude. And so that was it. Like he was like I could have gone after my freshman year, but my mom was like what are you gonna do?
Well, and that was before they had the educational thing figured out, right? Like, didn't they did the Southern New Hampshire thing now. They didn't do that then, did they?
No. It was
so they're just like, why don't you quit school?
And that was the challenge with the Wizards is Miola's was like the topper with one or two contracts, So I was just like, man, they're not like, no matter what happens, he can get scored on 45 times a day out of the game, because everybody wants the ponytail and.
That's right.
And the Predators really.
The man bun was before the man bun, Miola back in the 2000s.
That's hilarious.
I just got into work on my MBA and met my wife and did all that good stuff.
Where'd you do your MBA?
I ended up finishing at Webster. I started at Missouri State. I was a grad assistant there. And then Webster out of St. Louis. I just did night classes and stuff like that in Kansas City. So worked on my MBA. I was actually in probably like while I was at my last company, part of this like their development program that they have, right, is if you want to continue to like grow and get additional opportunities, the education piece comes in, and so the MBA path I went down, and I had twins on my last year of going through my MBA, so it was like it was something like traveling during the week for work and then doing Saturday, Sundays like homework. Wasn't very much fun, but
must have been hard. And so you live in Dallas now?
Yeah. Since 2015.
When's the last halfway competitive game you played?
So my brother's been out in LA for a while now, right?
Yeah.
One time, we did a tournament. He had like Bobby Hundreds or the Hundreds. I don't know. It's like
we've heard him talk about it before. It's fancy. Okay,
yeah.
It's outside our league.
Yeah. So he's that's like the streetwear stuff right out there, and I'm not obviously I'm not involved. Some people are into fashion, but
Mark is wearing currently a blue polo. It looks like he could golf in it. A Nike polo. It's nice, but
no.
You're a dad. You've got dad stuff.
I woke up and just threw on something basic that's going to get me through the day.
Looks like the dad. Looks like the dad bod as well, Ben.
In full effect. Thanks,
Blake. This is coming from Blake Siever, so relax. All right.
Yeah, so my brother and I invited me out there to do a tournament in LA. It was like after, I don't know, he'd been playing a while. And he's like, hey, you want to come out? It's like, we'll see how competitive it is, but we want to win. So we went to, I think Hollywood High School or something like that, the Hollywood Bowl or something like that. So we went to, they had like this big Adidas hundreds type of tournament style thing. And so my brother played, obviously, and like, there's like 7 or 8 of us that you just stacked the team, and we just like, it was brutal. I think Shear came down there, if you guys know Craig Shear at all.
Craig Shear was so good.
Yeah. So Shear flew in for it. Like, we had like a stacked team, you know. It was like, I don't know what the scores were, but it was fun. Like, we got to hang out and
that seemed like a fun group of guys. Like, you had Shear, and then you had Luke Cisna in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was after my freshman year when I played for the Menace. Our house was Seth, me, Cisna, and Eric Wilson.
Oh, that's great.
That was the 4 people that lived in our that summer.
My favorite Luke Cisna story is he's training, like, he's with our team when Seth was coaching us. He's training with us, or acting as the assistant or whatever. He's got a can of chew in his sock, and like somebody says like, "Hey, dude, what's in your sock?" And he's like, "Hockey puck," and just moves on.
Like, this is before we were even knew what chew or tobacco was. We were
yeah.
So we were like, "Oh, that makes sense. Probably is a hockey puck."
Yeah, he's lucky hockey puck. He just carries it around with him everywhere he goes.
Exactly.
Yeah, Cisna that was the '98 World Cup. And he's a huge France fan, so I just remember how hyped he was. And then Wilson just watched movies all night. I don't think he slept very much. And then, went out and did his thing. He's like one of the most just naturally talented soccer players that, you play with or against. It's just.
So it's interesting. You've had quite a bit of success at college, and I think.
Hold on before you ask this question. No, because I think I know where you're going, but I want to ask a question before he asks this question. So something that you've said multiple times, and I know because of your brother, and you said it even about your mother as well, is that you're super competitive. Did you agree with that comment?
Me? Yeah. And, sometimes it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, that's just the household we grew up in. Was everything was ultra competitive between he and I, and sometimes I'm like, it took him to leave the house and go off to Miami, Ohio for us to we were always close and tight. We got to play my freshman year in high school when he was a senior. I ended up playing up on varsity with him, and we ended up doing well. But that was when it kind of transitioned to us being best friends and super tight. But before that, it was super competitive, and that's just Matt Kennedy too, and college, and just now it's it comes out sometimes. Just
you can't blame it on other people. You're competitive. So Blake, now Blake asked your question. I just wanted to establish that before Blake, because I know what he was going to ask.
What's up?
So how come you never pursued other opportunities? Because I'm assuming they were there. You talked about the MLS, but there was still the A League back then. Even Sunday League, Ben plays in the co-ed league. He plays in the Sunday League.
It's when I was done, it's I don't know, it's hard. It's when you kind of look back on it and you're should I have just continued playing? And that's one option or one opportunity. When I was done playing, I my grandparents were a little bit more involved because of, my mom's situation. I was younger. I lost her when I was 19. So it was right in those college years that I was looking for some guidance.
Don't necessarily, you don't have to talk about that, but how much of an effect did it have? I can't imagine that. My dad's father passed when he was the same age, and I still can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, no, it was it was in February, my sophomore year, when I was 19. And so I went to, came back for the funeral and everything. And I just thought at that time it was probably best for me to go back to school and to get some sort of normalcy. Right. And so it was that was my my place of just like cleared my head, like going to practice every day. Leamy team, they all came up for the funeral. It was like, that was like my family, you know, that got into right into my junior year, which we did well. And it was hard. Like, it was obviously the kind of the most confusing time period for me, you know, because you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to find what you want to do after school. Where do you want to go? And it was always, she was my first coach, you know, so it's like I played soccer a lot of the time just because it hurt. And so when it came to decision time, like Blake's talking about, like, why didn't she just continue playing? It's like, part of it was, you know, if she was there, maybe she would have guided me down that path, right? And she wasn't. And so I, like what I tell my kids and what I try to do was, you create enough opportunities that you can pick and choose what you feel is the best path for you. And for me at that time, when I was coming out, there was no money in soccer, and it's not like I played it for money, but I was also looking beyond, you know, that's just part of my mindset as who I am, right? I'm not doing something today that I think is going to be awesome because I'm not looking to next week or 2 to 3 years down the line. I'm not making decisions like that with my life. I'm not making decisions like that with our business. I'm not making decisions like that with my family. So when I was a senior, I was going, okay, so let's play out the scenarios. And so when I started playing out the scenarios, doing the math, I was like, it's probably my best interest to get into, you know, get my education, get into a good, get in a good company, and then let my competitive nature take over there, you know. And it worked out really well, where I was like, it's a competition no matter where you're at, right? It's like just
well. So how is that translated for you? Because for me, it doesn't always translate the same way. It's so hard. But because I feel like I have to turn it, if it's on, then I'm always a dickhead.
Yeah, true. You know, because you're like that, because it just come through.
Right.
And so I was, you know, just at work, it was like, you know, just more of a self-discipline and a competitive nature. Like, a lot of people just don't have that, you know, and it's not in constructive criticism. You know, yes, like the coaches I had were super tough, and, you know, right now, I don't know how kids are nowadays, but can they take the criticism and then bounce back and go to practice sessions or do what we did? Maybe they can. I don't know. But my competitiveness at work was just like, you know, I invested so much time into soccer that, you know, what happened for me at work was, I'm going to invest the same amount of energy and desire to be successful at work. You know, I had like a 9th grade teacher that, and probably don't remember, it's Mr. Holcomb at Roosevelt, that told me I wouldn't get through my prerequisite courses at college. And so he probably doesn't remember making an offhand statement like that, because I was probably sleeping through class at my freshman year in high school, right? Not caring anything. But those things like resonated with me, where I was like, you know, I'm just as smart as the next person. I just chose to apply myself in soccer, and that took me to a certain level. And then if I wanted to get out of soccer and move into something else, why can't I apply that same thing and work on my education, work on my discipline, work on my people skills, my situational leadership skills, all that kind of stuff that comes into play. It's all learned behavior that you have that can help you be successful. And so that's just the same thing at work, is that I would do is just say, all right, what do I want to tackle next? What's my goals? What's my objectives? If I reach it, how do I reset my goals? It's the same thing as you do in sports. It's like, you know, can I get up the state team? Okay, now I made the state team. How do I get to the regional team? How do I get to the national pool?
So what are you doing now?
So it's like, yeah, now it's like I switched companies about a year ago.
What a segue, by the way.
Yeah, a private equity business. So I worked at a company called Hilti.
Hilti? Hilti?
Yeah.
What do they do?
So they do. So they're. I mean, I guess they're known for like construction equipment for power tools and stuff like that. But
okay.
It's a European private company, so heavy into culture, heavy into innovation, heavy into people development. So like their people development process for just bringing people in and learning business in general, it's a staple. You know, it's like a Swiss German company. You know, it's like clockwork. It's very heavy regimented. You know exactly what your strategy is for the next year, 3 years, 5 years. you don't have a 2020 plan. What's our 2025 plan? It's like everything is very detail oriented, which helped me because I'm just not, I wasn't invested into school like a lot of kids were growing up. My goal was, what's the minimum GPA I have to get to college? My mom told me it was a 3.2. Okay, so I'll get a
genius on her part.
So I'll get a 3.2 and I'll go to school and I'll play soccer as long as I can. And then I got into the business world, and they just really helped me get there. And then my mentor, so it's like the same thing, right? You have a good coach, you have somebody that buddies up to you, that takes you under their wing, that sees something in you. It's the same thing when you're coaching a player or coaching a kid. You see something, you have a connection, they have a desire, you get along well with them. I had a guy, Glenn Teal, that I worked with at Hilti, that was really the guy that when I was in sales, he gave me my first sales management job and really helped coach me through it. Then he moved on, and then he brought me over here. And so now I'm like, I do like global marketing for a company called Brand Safeway. It's a private equity, 40% owned by CD&R, 40% owned by Brookfield, and then 10% owned by us at Brand Safeway. And so what we specialize in is really heavily engineered structural concrete, like formwork. So you see like big bridges, high-rise construction. Our company would be the ones that you'd come to as a contractor and say, here's the building, here's our plans, how do we put this together? And then we would come up with the concept to do it.
So you're the global brand manager.
That's a simple way, man. That's a simple.
So you're dealing with the global brand. Does that mean you're traveling all over the world?
Yeah, for a while, like when I was at Hilti, we lived in Dallas when we first moved here, and then I went to Toronto. My job was in Toronto, so I went there every day, or Monday through Thursday, or Monday through Friday for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then we were going to go.
Blake's wife does stuff like that. How do you like that? I don't see that being sustainable.
I'm not doing it anymore, man.
Okay.
There's a reason, right?
Fair enough.
No, it's cool. Like we traveled around, we did that. It's like the soccer. Like if you're coaching, sometimes you got to pick up and move your family. It's the same thing for business here. For Hilti, I moved every 3 years, and then we finally got to Dallas in 2015, and my wife was like, "You do this again, you're like, we'll see you later, buddy. I love you. I love you." I might not
sucks.
you. And so I was like, all right, who knows where I'd be in Europe right now if I were to do that. It's the same MLS question. Who knows where I'd be if I would have gone down that path, right? But for the family, we just said, we have 3 kids, and they've moved around for multiple cities. Let's stay and let's develop some roots. And there's enough opportunity in Dallas. There's like almost 8 million people here. There's a lot of jobs that will probably meet our needs and stay motivated and all that kind of stuff.
So you're old. The twins are how old?
So I have a 12-year-old and 2 9-year-olds. So I have a.
Oh wait, so you had a 3-year-old.
Yes.
Twins.
Yes. Yeah. So he was our oldest is in 7th grade. Youngest is in 4th.
So okay, so you don't. So you got your rooted there in Dallas. You don't coach. Your kids play. At least your oldest boy plays soccer. Talk about just briefly the Dallas landscape soccer-wise, because it's clearly different than Iowa.
Yeah, so it's like when we first moved here, my oldest son played soccer, left-footed. I was like, gosh, this is awesome. Like everything.
Blake's got a left-footed player too.
I was like, everything I wish I was a field player, left-footed. This is beautiful. And, and then I burned him out, I think. It was like we were doing FC Dallas, and you drive up there, and it's like constant. But no, they don't really have a good development program below 13 years old, I don't think. So he plays basketball now. It's super competitive. It's like he plays for Drive Nation, and
is he any good?
Yeah. So he's good. He plays on one of their top teams, and it's like Jermaine O'Neal's thing. Dallas for basketball. Last year they had 3 guys. They had R.J. Hampton, Tyrese Maxey, and another Jamarcus something. 3-point guards all came out of Dallas. They're all going first round this year. It's just like a hotbed for basketball, man. So competitive nature for me that I always had growing up is like the same crap now.
Yeah.
But so my younger son is in 4th grade, and he plays for Solar.
He's the goalkeeper.
Yeah, now. He is now. So steering him away from goalkeeping as much as possible. Like, I don't know. I was like, man, you really want to – I remember the days and it's hot and you're sweaty and you're diving around on the ground and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, but also from a parent standpoint, my understanding is that watching your kid play goalie is nerve-wracking.
It is.
You got like, it's like, well, he makes one mistake and all the parents turn and look at you.
Oh yeah. And that's like, I'm like, can you take that, man? Because I was like, Kennedy told me the same thing. Like, he was like, hey, you'll never win a game for your team. The best you can do is help your team tie, and that's really it. Can you live with that? And so it's like part of the craziness of being a goalie, right? It's like, can you after every game, especially when you're 9 years old, you're not like the most developed mentally, So my son, I'm like, you really want to play this? He's like, yeah, Dad. Give me.
So you got him out there doing V-sits and stuff?
Powers. Huh?
You had got him out there doing V-sits?
You know it, man. Like, it's like, and it's so competitive. Like you mentioned, my daughter does gymnastics, so she's also very good. She took second in the last tournament all around.
I saw Bob is posting that on Facebook.
Yeah, but
Monday, Tuesday,
Friday. Yeah, every day.
Yeah, so she does it Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 3.5 hours a day. Like, it's just.
When do those 3.5 hours occur? What part of the day?
4 to 7:30.
What do you pay for that?
Huh?
What do you pay for that? Yeah, how much money?
What do we? It's like, I don't know, close to $500 a month.
Wow. And what do you guys play? So solar.
Yeah. Do you mind if we ask how much you pay for your kid to play soccer? Because just out of comparison's sake.
Because that's one of the most successful boys clubs in the country, I would say, especially outside of MLS.
100%.
Well, we had Supercopa here, which is for below 13 years old. It's probably the largest, most competitive one in the nation, right? And so you have to qualify and do all these weird things. You're like 9 years old and you're going to qualifying tournaments for Supercopa, right? And so they had 3 solar teams make the quarterfinals out of 8. Wow. So my son, who's 9, when I took him out there when he was like 7, it was like there's 45 kids, right? And there's 10 on a team. So it's like if you're on the top team, second team, third team, fourth team. And so how it's all set up here is like you have FC Dallas, you have Solar, you have the Texans, you have a million other clubs, right, that are there, and they're all. I mean, FC Dallas is like the biggest moneymaker of them all. Like they have. I mean, their complex is like second to none in the country, right? They have their stadium. They probably have 20 some other fields that are either artificial turf, natural grass, cooling stations, like fans. Like it's just like it's perfect for, I would say, 13 and up. For me, I'm going. My son, Solar's 15 minutes from me, or at least, I mean, Solar has 4 or 5 different clubs in Dallas, but there's one that's close to me. And so
they call them solar satellites.
It's like a solar satellite office. Yeah, exactly. And so he plays on the team here. I mean, we got kids that are, gosh, I mean, there's 2 kids from where we live, our city, and then there's 12 kids, so there's like kids coming from Louisville, Frisco, McKinney, Dallas. Like there's all these kids that come in for a 9-year-old, team. But it's I think FC Dallas below 13 years old is a little, like, they got smoked at Supercopa, their top team, but they just, it's a money thing, right? They aren't really invested into kids until you're 13 or you're an academy. So
here a select program costs, call it $1,500 a year, anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a year. Some people will tell you they can do less, but then they're probably providing slightly less service or whatever you want to call it. But
you don't ever want to know what I pay for all my kids. I have 3 kids in different sports.
Well, no, but that's what I was going to say. Is it's in other locations, it's like 3 and 5 times more in some situations, right? I mean, like.
Yeah. So I think ours is probably close to, I don't know, like, because you do the 2,000. Like, let's just say you're spending around $200 a month or something like that, right? Then you have all your tournaments and stuff like that, and indoor sessions and all that kind of stuff. Like my son who plays basketball does, I think it's like $225 a month for Drive Nation, and that's like 2 days a week practices. But then I do sessions with him, and that's $40 to $60 an hour, and he's doing 3 or 4 of those a week. So it's like but for my younger son, at least I get to take him out as free, and I can just work him over for 2 or 3 times a day.
Poor kid.
The monthly fee is genius because
Do they charge you monthly?
They do.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean-
recurring. And you can do like 3. It's like a 6-month contract. I think you sign in July through December.
Sure.
And
so you think, I mean, they don't do that up
installments
here.
if you want.
Yeah, I mean, but they don't do that up here. So you can say, hey, it's only $100 a month for 12 months. Here's your $1,200.
Yeah, I think people would jump all over that, but here you go. Oh, and we need $1,500 a month up front. You could easily make it, $120.
You did all up front.
Yeah, that's how they do it up here. Yeah,
Oh, it's all up front there. So
it
you
is.
locked in for the.
Yep.
Most of it. Yeah. Yep.
No,
Oh yeah, you're totally
yeah.
locked in.
Yeah, they do like monthly, and you can do like every quarter or something like that, or whatever you want.
So, just kind of as we've come full circle and gone from your youth to like now here you are with kids that are playing, and you're talking about like how much money you're spending and all the craziness that goes on. But like, I mean, really, how much different is it, do you think, from when you were doing it? Like we were still traveling, we were still. I feel like maybe there wasn't as much pay in it for the coaches back then. Like I don't know. What do you think Matt Kennedy used to make?
Oh man, I don't know. Like
You talk about making $12,000 a year.
not as much as we want to think,
Right.
like no, it was like so much for the passion, or like just your passion back then. Like here, you got coaches that are doing club soccer here that are driving Lexuses and Beamers and all this kind of stuff, and it's like there's just so much money. Like fortunately, that's all I look for is the coach. Like I'm in solar, I could be in FC Dallas if that was the situation, but the coach that does solar that we have 4 other kids on our team that have dads that are coaches in solar on my son's team. So it's like, I know they're going to be in a good environment. So I'm like, that's why I put them on that team. I'm like, that's it.
Know which to coach, Mark?
I, like my son my older son does, and that's the thing. Like for me, I just want all of them to be passionate about something. Like if my daughter loves gymnastics, I'm not going to force her to do soccer. Like if she and she loves it. She loves going to the gym for 4 hours a day. I'm like, that's not me, but she loves it. My older son hated soccer but he will go play basketball for 2 hours a day and do skill sessions and team sessions. And last night we drove an hour and 15 minutes to get to a practice, an hour and 15 minutes to get home. Like I got my day job, right? And then I had my night job, but
Taxi cab.
How much is different between now and then? And I think, for us growing up where we did in Des Moines, I mean, at the end of the day, I think from a coaching for me, I don't do it because I think it gives me more options. Like Tyler Relf, who does my son's skill sessions, he coaches Damian Lillard. He does Wally Cauley-Stein, Carl Anthony Towns. He does like all the NBA players. But I'm like, why don't you coach, man? You could have like the premier team, man. You could just do whatever you wanted. And he's like, I don't want to deal with parents. And I think my brother got swung at by a mom trying to get off the bus, as a coach. I don't want to.
Was that on our team?
I think so, man. But for me, like you asked, like why don't I coach? I do. I just don't coach a team. Like I coach my son. I coach all the other kids that want to get some sessions in or do some fun stuff. Like that's how I'll give back. I mean, like for me, yes, I didn't play basketball. I didn't do a lot of that stuff, but all the skills and conditioning and stuff like that, I do with all my kids. It's terrible.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
And every night, like they want to be competitive, they want to win, they want to get a scholarship. Like, they all talk about trying to play soccer or play basketball or go to gymnastics and go to Oklahoma for gymnastics or go to North Carolina for basketball. Like they have dreams, and so mine is like, how can I put them in the best position to be successful in life? And if you're passionate about that, go for it. If you're passionate about school, go for it, man. Like I will support you if I can financially, like every step of the way. But just be passionate. I hate when parents force kids to do things. Like they want it more than their kids. That's what I think is different now than then. Like then as kids, we were growing up and it's like, I want to go to the soccer field. I want to be there for all day, every day. Now it's like you're trying to get them peeled off of iPads and freaking PS4s and whatever else they have, and it's like you're dragging them to practice, it's like, and that's the biggest change I think now is parents are trying to drive them there versus like kids going, And that's why you just got to find what they're passionate about and go for it. But I don't, from a coaching standpoint, I don't have a desire to have a team, man. I have a desire to help them skills and all the other stuff that comes along.
I would love to see Mark Modersohn's like field session skill little clinic.
You'd love to see my sessions with my son in goal, man. It's like
That would be good.
like how Kennedy used to do it. I did the warm ups before his games. You know, they're like, "What the heck, man? This kid's 9 years old."
Oh, that's amazing. That's so good. So then this is my final question because we've probably taken up enough of your day.
Okay.
But I'm just curious. You talk about how competitive your household is. What does Mrs. Modersohn think about all that? Like, where she stand as the fifth wheel on this competitive?
It is amazing. Like, that's a great question because she's from Chicago. I don't think she ever got a B. She went to private school her whole life. Like, when my son went to public school, it was her first time stepping into a public elementary school. And but she's super competitive. She went to Northwestern. She's like ultra competitive on that front, right? But
did she ever play a sport in her life?
She not like we did.
Yeah.
It's the typical thing. Like, yeah.
Careful.
I'm just kidding. It's like when you're in college and somebody says, "Hey, I played soccer," and you're like, "You did? Where? Like, you play soccer?" And they're like, "No, I played through 8th grade or something like that." And you're like, okay, but not that it's anything wrong with that. But I'm just saying it's something like that. When everybody used to tell you that, "Yeah, I play on that team too," and you're like, I do play on that team. But no, so she's like super competitive. Like, the kids are for school is like they're on it, and you should have seen her at the weekend when she's just like she's supportive. She's more supportive, competitive than I am. Like, this weekend in the soccer tournament, like I get frustrated. Like, I see a mistake and I watch. Like, it's very hard to just, because you know what you're supposed to do. Like, I think you guys probably watch and you're like, damn, like what the heck you just get frustrated because you're like, what are you doing? But she's competitive, but she's more supportive than I am.
Sounds like a just
and she
sort of
splits
like
up the fights, man. Kids just argue.
That sounds
they
like
argue all
basic.
day.
That's why they work so well together.
That's right. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Our kids argue.
So they only argue any. I remember the Modersohn boys. From what I understood, there were some physical altercations as young men. What about your kids? They scrap?
How fast can we fight, and then I can go find a safe place in the house to hide? That was my childhood. My daughter is like on the out. Like, she's just like, she's like my mini me of my life. But the sons they know how to, they're all always around each other, so they know how to just push buttons. It's like and plus with COVID, like you're just out in the house, just what else is there to do besides just argue and fight and try to one up the other person on anything?
I wish I was 12 again and Park was 9 and I was doing that. I would just destroy him.
Dude, yes. I wish I had a little brother. I never got to experience that, but I always looked up to my big bro, though. I could see that already in my kids. My younger son just like follows it around. He like tries to touch my hand before the game. And he says, give me your powers. It's like he said he's like, I was like, oh, what'd you think before you say that penalty kick? He goes, I said my name, Jacob Modersohn. And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? He's like, I just envisioned like the superpowers that, I want, and then he's like, I want to wear your number, Dad. I want to wear your number, so it's just like all this. It's cool though,
That's awesome.
That's super cool. So do you have any old SMS jerseys that you're going to throw his way?
He wants them. He wears like a couple of the jerseys and he's like 2 feet tall,
Well, that's a great point, Ben, because Mark has not listened to enough of our podcast, but when we have our guests in our studio, we kind of hassle them when they don't bring anything to hang up. So the next time you're back in Des Moines,
all right,
bring in some of those gold gloves. Bring in some gold gloves.
I do have a pair of gloves. You know? I have to hook you up with some gloves.
Those will smell really good.
Yeah.
20 years
Man.
later.
And I think I have like one or two that have made every move. Yeah.
Well,
Whatever.
so Mark, we don't want to take your whole day up, but it's been super fun chatting with you. And you have a really interesting journey, and so it's funny. We're going to talk to Seth here in the next 24 hours or so as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll run them like concurrently or something. But it'll be funny to chat with him too, because there's the older brother younger brother dynamic is, I mean, it's hard to miss.
And speaking of competitive, we'll see who gets more listens, won't we, Ben?
We will.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've been out of the game for so long. I think my brother will probably take that one, but you know, he'll have more
Social media interactions.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of parents that you got that you know that are soccer parents, gymnastics parents, basketball parents.
Oh man,
Pitch it to them that your first podcast.
I'm a super fan.
Our Dallas
My kids.
listenership is going to go through the roof.
That's right.
We can track that, so we'll let you know how it goes.
Cool. Well, yeah, it's good to catch up with you guys.
Yeah, man. Please
Thanks,
let us
Mark.
know when you're back in town. Take care.
We'll do.
See ya. Are you gonna unrecord it, Blake?
It's off.
Yeah.
All right, Blake. I sure enjoyed that. What about you?
I did as well. We find through these Iowa Soccer Legends podcasts that we kind of reconnect with some folks that we haven't talked to in quite a while. So it was good reminiscing and
It's
talking
super
again,
fun.
Mark.
Super fun, and I think we're gonna try and keep the interviews coming. We had the cool one last week with the Houston Dash champion there, Katie Naughton, and then we're gonna chat with Seth Modersohn, Mark's older brother. Should be fun, and then we've got a couple other ones teed up as well.
We do. Just some
Some shouts, some
yeah.
blasts from the past, some new ones.
some younger folks that are doing awesome things that maybe not everybody knows about. So
Yeah, it should be cool. But even more importantly, more excitingly, getting back into the game of the week next week. So you heard from us last week. You'll hear from us this week, and next week we will hopefully give you a little recap of a big game. What's the game?
yeah,
Steve?
big Heart of America conference battle.
We assume no one's listening at this point, so let's just tell them. Let's
Should we
give them
tell
some
them?
hints. Let's
Some
give them
hints?
some hints.
So,
Hints.
The one school is Elvis Presley's kind of like namesake down there in Memphis,
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
And the other school is kind of a synonym for a large
Scenic.
area that you would look out upon, and it would be gorgeous.
Yes. Blake is basically a genius, in case you were wondering.
So if you can't figure those two out, you'll have to listen. But we'll tease it beforehand so you can maybe join us at the game.
Yeah, right on. Keep an eye on social media too. We've been, putting out more information every so often about the mini pitch projects. We've got a really cool out of state project that we'll be announcing soon, and maybe even some more beyond that. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at kick_forward. Instagram is at kick.it.forward. Facebook is at kickitforwardIA. You can follow us on TikTok. I couldn't tell you. YouTube channel should have some new uploads here in the next couple weeks. So keep your eyes out, folks. We miss you. We love you. Please, if you have any good ideas for Iowa Soccer Legends, we want them. If you've got any good game of the week suggestions, we want them. Stay safe.
I hope our live studio audience appreciated this one, Ben.
That's right. Shout out to Derek. Yeah.